was the woman Alex abandoned his powerful family to marry. But when I was 6 months pregnant, he cheated on me. In the private room, he kissed a young, beautiful girl while people cheered them on. Someone commented, "Wow, Alex is living the dream," married the campus belle, and soon he'll have a warm home with a wife and baby. He lit a cigarette, letting out the smoke with a sneer. Alicia's nice, gentle, pretty, but every time I think of the hardship I endured to leave my family and build my business just to marry her, I feel like an idiot. Looking at her now, she's just bland, timid, dull, and utterly boring. Then he kissed the girl beside him again, stroking her cheek with a flirtatious grin. "You're the real deal. You don't care about status. You just want to have fun, however I want, whenever I want." But he forgot one thing. Alicia might be timid and quiet, but she bears grudges and always gets revenge. Chapter 1. I held hangover medicine from a pharmacy in one hand, a dripping umbrella in the other. On my phone was a message Alex had sent an hour ago. "Wifey, I drank too much. Come pick me up." Same old sweet, pitiful tone. The hallway was bathed in a dim, golden glow. This was a high-end private club, one Alex only regained access to after rebuilding his career. Privacy? Guaranteed. Maybe it was too dark, but I tripped over the edge of the carpet, staggering several steps forward, heart racing. I cradled my belly. Then I felt something slip, my ring finger. A stab of pain hit me. My wedding ring had fallen off. 3 years of marriage. That custom-designed ring, crafted by Alex himself, had never left my hand. So many times, post-intimacy, he'd kiss my fingers, whispering, "So beautiful. Alicia's beautiful everywhere. Only Alicia deserves a ring made by me." And now, it fell off, just like that. No warning, like a dead leaf in autumn. I crouched to search for it, panic rising. But in the dim light, there was only plush carpet, no ring. From the slightly open room nearby, young voices drifted out. They were playing Truth or Dare. A girl's sugary voice rang out. "Alex, I really can't drink anymore. Help me just this once, and I'll give you a special reward tonight." His tone rose lazily. "Liar, you said that last night too." Who was crying halfway through? It sounded so much like the way he used to pamper me. I've always had a fragile sense of security. Even small noises could send my heart racing. "Alicia, why are you so jumpy?" "Don't worry. I just dropped a cup too loudly." He'd wrap me in a blanket and hold me tight, gently stroking my back. "You're like a little bunny. I'll be gentler, okay? I won't let anything scare you." His warmth calmed me. Bit by bit, I let my guard down. Bit by bit, I gave him my heart. And now? That entire world I built crumbled. My heart felt hollow. Tears came fast, unstoppable. The heartache, buried for a month, returned like a tidal wave. Yes, I had known for a month. I knew Alex was cheating on me. Chapter 2. It was raining that day too. Autumn in Beijing meant the weather changed every single day. I had scheduled my prenatal checkup in advance and was waiting in a thick trench coat for Alex to pick me up. He was supposed to be back by 2 p.m., but by 3, there was still no sign of him. As the appointment time approached, I called him. When he picked up, his voice was a little hoarse, yet still gentle and patient. He said, "Sorry, baby, I've been working with an overseas company, and a meeting just came up. How about I have my assistant take you there today?" I didn't like strangers getting too close to me, even his assistant, whom I had seen many times. But he had indeed been extremely busy lately. So busy that he only came home after I fell asleep and was gone again before I woke up. Only the lingering warmth in bed told me he had been there the night before. The last time I saw him was 2 days ago. He looked utterly exhausted, wrapped his arms around me, and nuzzled my neck with his soft hair, like a loyal wolfhound begging for his master's affection. He said the company was about to go public and he hadn't had time for me or the baby. He pouted and begged for kisses to make up for the time we hadn't spent together. Thinking of that softened my heart. I gently reminded him, "All right, just make sure to rest too, okay? Your health comes first." He chuckled on the other end of the line. A loud mwah sound followed. "Okay, I'll do whatever my wife says." At the charity gala last night, I bid for the angel wings necklace for you. I'll bring it back tonight. My face flushed with joy. Angel wings was my favorite piece from a renowned designer. It was the only piece from the Freedom collection ever released for auction. I had stared at its photo in the magazine countless times. He noticed and, amused, pulled me onto his lap, saying that if I pampered him enough, he'd get it for me. So, for that necklace, I did pamper him for a long time. In the end, my tongue was numb, lips swollen, and my legs too weak to stand. He held me in his arms, voice hoarse as he said, "Silly Alicia, no one else deserves this necklace but you." But in the end, that necklace never made it onto my neck. While I was happily looking at the ultrasound, admiring the baby who had grown tiny arms and legs, that man, who said he was busy, who wanted comfort, was sitting in the next room of the gynecology department, holding a crying girl in his arms. It's just a luteal rupture caused by excessive intercourse. Nothing serious. Just be mindful of frequency and hygiene. Avoid intercourse for a while. The girl sobbed in pain, snuggling into Alex's chest and whining. Alex held her hand and kissed her forehead gently again and again, comforting her softly. In truth, Alex never had a good temper. Born into a wealthy family, he had been placed on a pedestal since childhood. In his youth, he was arrogant and wild. He had a fiery temper and was vindictive toward anyone who crossed him. His peach blossom eyes held nothing but pride and malice, let alone comforting others. He barely knew how to talk nicely. Only when he looked at me would those eyes soften. Now, he had learned how to comfort another girl like that. I stood at the doorway, clutching my medical report so tightly that it crumpled in my hand without me even realizing. Alex was right. I was timid and dull. Even after catching my husband cheating, I instinctively hid, afraid to confront them. What was I thinking? Oh. I was thinking, does Alex know I'm here for a prenatal checkup today? Does he remember I've always come to this private clinic? So, bringing her here, wasn't he afraid I'd see? Or did he do it on purpose? Did he want me to see them together? Was he tired of explaining and wanted me to give up on my own? My eyes scanned over their tightly entwined bodies. Finally, I focused on her neck. That necklace, the one I'd stared at in magazines countless times. He gave it to her. Chapter 3. That day. I don't remember how I got home. I just remember I walked through the rain, and my phone kept ringing and stopping in my pocket. It wasn't until I got home that I finally answered. Alex's voice sounded frantic. "Baby, where did you go? My assistant said you disappeared after you left. Where are you? Send me your location, I'll come get you." I numbly and calmly told him. "I'm home." He kept rambling on about something, but all I could hear was a buzzing in my ears. I couldn't make out a word. Only after he hung up did I go to the bedroom to change clothes. It was only then that I realized how cold I was, even with the AC set to 30 degrees. Even with me curled up on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, I could still hear the sound of my own teeth chattering. As time ticked by, minute by minute, night fell, and the world outside went silent. But that door, the door that meant someone had come home, never opened. Suddenly, I snapped. I flipped the coffee table in a frenzy. Shards of the glass vase and water-drenched rose petals scattered all over the floor. Even in anger, I, timid and hesitant, had to be sure the one who wronged me wasn't coming back before I dared to vent so recklessly. I smashed everything in the living room I could, until I collapsed on the floor from exhaustion. Only then did I realize, I wasn't cold. It was my heart that was crying, screaming in agony, in a pain so brutal it tore me apart. My head was spinning. I couldn't understand. What did I do wrong? Why would someone who loved me so deeply betray me during my pregnancy with a fatal blow? For the next month, I fell into an endless loop of inner torment. I became obsessed with my sagging belly, my tired, pregnancy-worn face. At times, I truly believed I was the worst, most worthless person in the world, and still, I instinctively tried to hide everything, pretending none of it ever happened. I didn't dare to say it out loud. I lost my family at 17. For the past 8 years, Alex had become my only family. He was all I had. I was terrified that if I exposed the truth, I'd lose him too. But no matter how much I avoided it, I couldn't help but look for clues, and I always knew. With disturbing precision, when he had just come back from that woman, the sweet, sticky perfume on him when he held me, the occasional lipstick stain on the collar of his white shirt in the laundry basket, the strands of chestnut curls in the passenger seat that didn't belong to me, all the self-doubt, all the details I once ignored, piled up like mountains, slowly eating away at my sanity. On the surface, I remained composed, but inside, it was a tsunami, wave after wave, crashing violently into my heart, until that heart, like an old crumbling wall, began to crack. Piece by piece breaking apart, revealing the foul, rotten marks hidden beneath. Chapter 4. Standing outside the private room at that moment, I finally felt the fog in my head, which had lingered for a month, begin to lift. The noise and laughter inside continued, but I no longer had any desire to go back in. Alex is living the dream, a beautiful wife and kid, plus a stunning mistress. I heard his wife used to be the campus belle, an ice queen, famous at school. She even went to the same college as the little mistress. A playful female voice chimed in. Really? Really? Alex, your wife is my senior. You told me she was so pitiful, lost her parents early. Her mom was even pregnant when she died. And her stepdad used to beat her. I thought she was some washed-up old housewife. Her voice grew sulky, mixed with a pout. If you'd told me your wife was this pretty, I wouldn't have asked you in bed last night who looked better between me and her. How embarrassing. Nah, sweetheart. When men cheat, they don't pick prettier women. What do you think she really wants from you? Exactly. And just because someone comes from a rough background doesn't mean they can't be beautiful. Your family's nothing special either. Look at Alex. His looks alone tell you his wife must be a knockout. You could guess that with your toes. The teasing became too much, and the girl burst into tears. Alex laughed and tried to smooth things over. Why are you teasing her? She's still young, innocent, and sweet. Don't bully her. As for Alicia, Alex's once playful tone shifted into something more cryptic. She is beautiful, gentle, elegant, but every time I think about how I had to cut ties with my family and start a business from scratch just to marry her, I feel like such a fool. And now, looking at her again, she's really just average. Ice queen? More like antisocial. Timid. Dull as hell. I still don't get why I had to have her back then. His final sentence trailed off with an upward lilt, as if even he couldn't believe his own past choices. But I felt nothing but bone-deep cold. What had been a nightmare for me, Alex had long shared it with his mistress. Perhaps even more people. They dissected me and my family like we were gossip fodder, stripping my pain bare for their amusement. My suffering had become their entertainment. And the question that had tortured me for the past month, why Alex cheated, was now answered by none other than Alex himself, making my self-inflicted torment over the last month seem laughable. Alex's father had also cheated on his mother during her pregnancy. By the time she found out, the mistress's child was almost 10, about Alex's age. After that, his mother's mental state began to crumble. She suffered for years before finally jumping off a rooftop. Not long after her death, Alex's father brought the mistress and illegitimate child into the home. That was when Alex moved out and never returned. He was 17 then. He lived next door to me. After everything, he became violent and volatile, constantly getting into fights and causing trouble. I only knew that the boy next door was about my age, and like me, unloved and neglected. So I often left ointments for bruises and cuts at his door, in secret. Later, after we got together, I learned the truth about his family and the vast gap between his wealth and my poverty. His father never abandoned him. Maybe it was out of some faint guilt over Alex's mother, but all the family's resources were funneled to Alex, unconditionally. Because of that, I once distanced myself from him, but Alex came to find me, held me with trembling arms and choked up. Alicia, I can live without anything. Except you. Don't leave me, I'll die. You're the only person I care about in this world. In the end, my heart softened. I went home with him and met the man who had driven his wife to suicide. He looked down on us from above like a king. Alex, if you insist on marrying that woman, I'll strip you of all the privileges you enjoy in this family. I will never forget the look of pity in his father's eyes when he looked at me that day, nor the mockery in his voice when he turned to Alex. He said, "Are you sure that when you lose the halo of being the young master and everything that comes with it, When you step into the world of bills and groceries. Working hard every month and still not able to afford a single button on the clothes you wear now. While your little brother inherits the family business and enjoys wealth and admiration. Are you sure you won't resent her? Are you sure you won't blame her? Back then, Alex stubbornly dragged me out of the villa. He left only one sentence behind. Then take it all back. Looking back now, everything was already foreshadowed. For example, I had once seen Alex staring blankly at an entertainment news photo on his phone, a photo of his illegitimate brother, dressed impeccably in a suit. I had also seen him, during the hardest days of his startup, drunkenly push away my hand as I tried to wipe his face, his eyes filled with hatred as he mumbled, "Why does he get to have everything? He's just a bastard. His mother is a homewrecker." And they all forgot how they used to fawn over me. All of these fragments pieced together into one complete truth. Alex resents me. How ridiculous. What right does Alex have to resent me? He made the choice. Why should his dissatisfaction be dumped on my head? Coward. Alex, your wife is pregnant. Aren't you afraid she'll find out? After that line, silence filled the room. Then, a sudden crash of breaking glass. Followed by Alex's cold threat. "So keep your damn mouth shut. She's about to give birth." At this critical moment, nothing can go wrong. But, from the narrow gap in the door, I saw Alex casually toss the shattered glass aside. He leaned back, his superior profile shadowed, unreadable, as if the warning just now had been nothing but an illusion. His Adam's apple bobbed. He said, "She's 6 months pregnant now. Her belly this big. Besides, I'm all she has. Even if she finds out, what can she possibly do?" Staring at the man I once loved so deeply, my body started trembling. My legs turned weak. I could only lean against the wall to keep myself standing. My mind flickered through countless scenes, until one stopped. A bloody night in a thunderstorm, a drunken, raging man, a little girl crying non-stop, and a heavily pregnant woman clutching the girl desperately. "Alicia! Alicia! Run!" The woman's eyes were bruised black and bleeding. Blood seemed ready to drip at any moment. Her hair was a mess. Her voice broken and ragged like something was stuck in her throat. Behind her, a man was punching and kicking wildly. His voice pierced through time and hell itself as it reached my ears. "You're fucking pregnant. Your belly's already huge because of me. What can you do? Where can you go? Run? You'll never escape me in this lifetime." That was my past. The past I had spent my whole life avoiding. Now it stood before me again, 1,000 blades pinning me to the spot, forcing me to watch, unable to escape. No, I don't want this. I won't let this be my life. After a long time, the chaos inside resumed. Alex wrapped his arm around the girl's slender waist and kissed her amid everyone's cheers. Only then did the strength slowly return to my limbs. I suddenly laughed. So-called salvation was nothing but another abyss. I turned around and walked down the dim corridor step by step. My footsteps grew lighter. Finally, I held my belly and started running, until I stepped into the light again. Alex was right. I am timid, wooden, slow to react. But I am also the type who never forgets a grudge. When I offer softness and someone stabs me with a blade, he should know, I will never forgive him. My phone chimed. It was Alex. "Baby, tomorrow is our 3rd wedding anniversary. I prepared a surprise. Love you." Expressionless, I deleted the message. Then, without a moment of hesitation, I took a taxi and left. Chapter 5. I had the best sleep I'd had in a month. When Alex came back, I was on the balcony trimming flower branches. The housekeeper Monica had just returned from her countryside leave and was helping me wipe water stains off the flower pots while chatting about interesting stories from her trip. I burst out laughing, and Monica smiled warmly with me. "Madam hasn't laughed like this in a long time." "Ah, Sir is back. No matter how busy he is, he always comes home on your anniversary." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the man in the garden below, holding a bouquet. He was frowning, carefully adjusting his clothes in the car mirror, and the roses in his arms were glistening with dewdrops. Married so long, yet Sir still tries so hard to look his best for Madam. "Look, he's even spraying perfume down there. Sir truly loves you." I let out a cold laugh. Just a man doing a final check to make sure his wife doesn't catch his lies. What are you two talking about? So happy? Alex came up quickly after a wild night. He had cleaned up nicely and looked full of energy. He wore the black designer suit I'd bought for him. It fit perfectly. Broad shoulders, slim waist, long legs. His arms filled out the sleeves with lean muscle. Nothing much. Just saying how loving you and Madam are. Sir, why don't you keep Madam company while I go prepare lunch? Monica left with a smile, leaving us alone. Alex raised his brows and walked over with a playful smile, setting the flowers down before wrapping me in a hug. Monica's great, always witnessing my love for my wife. I lifted my hand to push him away. Even the strong scent of his cologne couldn't mask that sweet, cloying trace of another woman's perfume. You stayed at the office again last night? I turned to meet his eyes. Yeah, it was 2 a.m. by the time I finished work, so I just slept at the office. Babe, I missed you so much. I can't sleep without holding you. He took my hand and nuzzled his head against it, sounding pitiful, completely guilt-free. I let out a quiet laugh. Really? It rained last night. I was worried you'd get soaked, so I brought you an umbrella. Your coworkers said you left early. Alex froze mid-motion. I calmly pulled my hand back and sat down on the sofa, not even looking at his face. Then suddenly, he rushed over and held me tightly, his arms wrapping around me like a vice. Even his tone became cautious. I'm sorry, babe. Last night, a company CEO said there was an issue with the contract, so I had to entertain him late. I drank a lot and blacked out in a random hotel. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I just didn't want you to worry, especially with the baby. The more he spoke, the softer his voice got. A look of grievance slowly crept onto his face, as if he really were a good husband, misunderstood while working hard for his wife and unborn child. I tried to pull away, but he held me too tightly, so I simply said, your peach-scented perfume is suffocating me. Alex, you know I hate peach. At that moment, his entire body went stiff. Pity had long since been replaced by numbness, and that was good, because I could finally look at him with a calm, unfeeling heart. Chapter 6. The following day, Alex clung to me almost constantly. He had showered again and changed into fresh clothes, smiling as he explained, that female assistant must have accidentally brushed against me last night. That's probably where the scent came from. Not the slightest panic from nearly being caught cheating. I truly never knew he could act this well. I smiled and nodded, letting the matter pass. Alex gave the housekeepers the day off, saying he wanted to spend the whole day with me, just the two of us, clinging to me like glue. He didn't even let them cook, just sent everyone away. Watching him bustling around the kitchen, for a moment, I felt as if I'd gone back to the early days of our marriage. Back then, I had trouble sleeping, my mental state was poor, I was thin, and he would personally cook for me every day after work, determined to feed me well. If only his phone hadn't kept ringing. He frowned as he rejected yet another call. 2 chicken wings in the pot were burned because of his distraction. At the same time, my own phone buzzed a few times. It was several pictures and a folder. The photos were taken in Alex's office. A woman was kneeling on the desk, her tight skirt pushed up, the man only undoing his zipper. Their bodies were tightly connected, his restraint mixed with her pleasure. I felt nauseous and pressed my hand against my chest, only to realize I felt nothing there anymore. A good sign. Actually, useless old hag. Take your baby and go die. I can give him a child too. I just got the test results. Guess, will he still want you after seeing this? A sonogram was attached. He's been sick of you for a long time. He told me if it weren't for you, he wouldn't have suffered so much. The only reason he hasn't divorced you is your baby responsibility. Let him go, okay? I ignored her messages, but I finally understood. It was likely her who used Alex's phone last night to lure me over. Her intentions were painfully obvious. A pity, really, accepted to a top university, with a bright future ahead. Yet she chose this path. I saved the images, then opened the folder sent by the overseas account. It contained the girl's information. 20-year-old Celine, young, beautiful, with a tragic upbringing, a grandmother who favored boys over girls, a mother who died early, a vicious stepmother, and a violent father. Alex had saved her. 2 years ago, when Alex's company was preparing to go public, there was a charity project. Some relief supplies sent to a mountain village had issues. Alex went personally to handle it, rescuing her just as her father was about to sell her, fresh out of high school, to an old widower in the village. Alex descended into her life like a god. He brought her to the capital, dragged her out of the mud, financed her education. Falling in love with her savior was only natural. She's a lot like you. The overseas account sent another message. I snorted, still in the mood to joke. I never slept with someone else's husband though. She must have been speechless. After a long while, she replied, does he have a savior complex or something? Why does he always enjoy rescues? Maybe he does. During lunch, the messages kept coming, this time filled with irritation. Want me to avenge you? I hacked into that scumbag's computer. There's plenty of dirt. I could upload it to her campus forum. Forget it. The problem isn't the shit he stepped in, but the man who stepped in it. What are you chatting about? You look happy. Alex placed the dishes on the table. He knew I had a very special friend, one who never showed up and appeared unpredictably. I smiled and walked to the table, talking about a fallen woman rescue story. Alex pulled out my chair and helped me sit carefully. What's so interesting about that? You haven't had my cooking in ages. He leaned over and kissed my forehead as I sat down. The moment I remembered the photo Celine sent, my stomach churned again, and my mood soured. Without thinking, I said, real stories are always entertaining. A man meets his beloved wife in a club, and years later, he brings his mistress out of the same club. Tell me, does he have some special fetish, saving fallen women? Alex's hand shook, the ladle tipped. The soup spilled and splashed onto his hand. I watched coldly as he panicked, rushing into the kitchen to rinse it. When he came back, a blister had already formed on his hand. I flipped my phone face down on the table and looked at him as he stood frozen, unsure what to say. Finally, he asked, babe, did you hear some rumor? I shook my head and smiled gently. Let's eat. My phone screen remained on Celine's message. Guess if he'll celebrate your anniversary with you today? Chapter 7. Alex still didn't end up going out with Celine. When he excused himself, claiming there was something at the company, I lifted a hand and smoothed my hair. I watched with satisfaction as panic flickered in his eyes when he saw my bare finger. Celine tried to provoke me, and even though I knew the real problem was Alex, there was no way I would let her get what she wanted, at the very least. I wanted to disgust her a little, but even though Alex stayed home, I still felt utterly repulsed. I mocked myself inwardly, realizing that I had to resort to tactics like those palace drama concubines, fighting for a man's affection just to keep a husband who had already strayed. That night, he held me and talked a lot about us, about who we used to be, even when we slept. He held me tightly. Only when his throat grew dry did he carefully, almost whispering, ask, Alicia, where's the ring I polished for you? I forgot where I tossed it, I replied. Silence fell behind me for a long time before Alex finally spoke again. It's fine. If it's lost, it's lost. I'll make you another one. A sudden coldness touched my neck. I lowered my gaze. The wing-shaped diamond on the necklace pendant shimmered faintly. Alex turned my body to face him, his eyes filled with deep affection. Alicia, happy 3rd anniversary. The necklace you wanted, I brought it back for you. It was the angel wings necklace Celine had worn. I closed my eyes and hummed in acknowledgement, pretending to sleep as I turned away from him, showing him the back of my head. Maybe the anniversary had already become too chaotic. Alex didn't say anything more. He simply wrapped his arms tightly around me from behind. Just before I drifted off, I vaguely heard him murmuring, Alicia, be good, you have to stay with me forever. You can never leave me. But his so-called forever only lasted a few hours. I woke up the moment Alex quietly got out of bed in the middle of the night. I kept my eyes closed, listening to him fumbling in the dark as he dressed and then left the room. Downstairs, Celine seemed to have been waiting for a long time. The moment he appeared, she threw herself into his arms. I watched silently for a while, then yanked the necklace from my neck and tossed it into the trash bin. After that, I went to sleep in the guest room beside ours. Dirty, absolutely filthy. The moment he left, I couldn't pretend anymore. Chapter 8. I received Alex's message the next day. He said he had to go on a business trip, sounding extremely cautious. I'm sorry, baby. This business trip was decided at the last minute. It's an emergency. When I come back, I'll stay with you through the rest of the pregnancy. I won't go anywhere. I'll stay right by your side. Baby, be good and wait for me at home. Work is the most important. Don't worry about the rest. When you come back, I'll have a big gift for you. That's how I replied. On my phone was a photo of him holding Celine's hand as they boarded the plane. The tall man and the petite woman looked like a pair of deeply entwined lovers. Turning off the screen, I took out the photos we had taken over the years and fed them into the shredder. Then I let the people I had already arranged for come in and smash everything in the room that could be called a memory we shared. The handmade ceramic cups we made together. The trophy we won from the school project we worked on. The handmade rocking chair I had pestered him to make for me. And even the baby's room we had already finished decorating. We actually could have checked whether the baby was a boy or a girl. But Alex refused. He said he wanted to wait the 10 months and see for himself. So we decorated 2 nurseries. The pink one for a daughter, the blue one for a son. But now, they were turning into ruins before my eyes, along with all my expectations for the baby. After telling the babysitter she wouldn't need to come for the next few days, I left the house. In the car on my way out, a message came from my overseas account. Are you sure about this? Yes. I'll come back to be with you. Just 5 short words. And all the grievances of these days burst like a breached dam. Tears instantly streamed down my face. Okay. Chapter 9. Night fell, and Alex leaned against the window smoking. A nurse in the hospital room reminded him, "Sir, smoking is not allowed in the ward." Alex responded quietly and crushed the cigarette ash with his fingers. How is she? No major issues. She can have the surgery tomorrow. Just make sure she avoids sex during the recovery period. And she shouldn't get exposed to cold drafts. She's still young. She'll recover quickly. After saying that, the nurse left. Celine's eyes were red, her face pale as she called out to him, "Alex." She had forgotten the smugness she felt when she sent the pregnancy test to Alicia. At this moment, all she wanted was to ask if she could keep the baby. She wanted to say she wasn't with him for money, but the words never made it out. "I'll transfer a sum to you. It'll be enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. Don't contact me again after this." Alex's expression was cold, completely different from the gentle man he had been before. Seeing that she wanted to cling to him, he bent down and grabbed her face, squeezing so hard that 2 red marks instantly formed on her cheeks. "I told you the rules from the beginning, Celine. Behave, or you won't be able to stay in Jing City. Otherwise." He let out a short, cold laugh, leaving the rest unspoken. Yet the threat was very clear. Celine trembled. She suddenly remembered how ruthless Alex could be. His pampering in recent days had made her delusional, made her forget that she was nothing more than a pet he kept, and all of his real affection was reserved for that woman named Alicia. "All right, you'll have the surgery here. My assistant will coordinate everything afterward." Alex stood up, ready to leave. Celine was still frozen, and suddenly, she remembered how she had provoked Alicia. If Alex found out. She suddenly reached out and grabbed Alex's sleeve. "Alex, just these last few days. Can't you stay with me? This is our baby. Can't we send it off together?" Celine lifted her face, tears already streaming down like a pitiful, fragile girl. She thought she could at least stall him for a few days. After the surgery, once she recovered a little and got the money, she would leave this place completely, disappear so no one could ever find her again. That way, even if Alex knew she had exposed everything to Alicia and wanted to settle accounts, he'd never be able to find her. Alex lowered his head to look at her. From this angle, Celine most resembled the Alicia from back then. 17-year-old Alicia had already been beautiful, the kind of beauty that stunned you at first glance. But she was also fragile and sensitive. She was the kind of girl who made men harbor wicked thoughts easily. So, for the first time, the proud young master found himself paying attention to someone. He had actually known about Alicia's family situation on the very first day he moved there. Her family was well known in the building, so notorious that even the neighbor's pet dog would bark and take a detour upon seeing them. The reason was simple. She had a violent, troublesome stepfather who would beat her mother and her whenever he got drunk. Every few days, their home would be filled with the tragic cries of women, After the police and the Women's Federation visited a few times without success, they stopped coming altogether. But even in that environment, Alicia would quietly feed the stray cats downstairs in the rundown neighborhood. She also brought him medicine whenever he got into trouble outside and got hurt. She was such a kind girl, almost saintly. He had always been someone who repaid kindness and returned grudges. Anyone who crossed him would wish they were dead. Anyone who helped him would always be repaid. So when the screams from their home rang out again, he kicked open their door and rushed inside. But the scene before him shocked him even more than the neighbors' descriptions. He had been there for so long, yet he had never once seen Alicia's mother until that moment. Her mother was skin and bones, covered in injuries, yet her astonishing beauty still couldn't be hidden. Alicia looked almost exactly like her, but at that moment, her heavily pregnant body was sprawled on the floor, enduring the man's slaps. Alicia clung desperately to the man's leg, trying to pull him back, only to be kicked aside. The man cursed filthily. "You married me and still want to run off to hook rich men? Bitch! Try running again, I'll kill you first. Then kill the little slut you gave birth to." Even after seeing plenty of ugliness these days, the young master had never felt as furious as he did then. He practically roared as he charged forward, fighting the man in a tangled brawl. In the end, that man suffered 3 broken ribs and a fractured leg. Alex's father had to spend money to settle the whole incident. The man was terrified afterward. For a long time after that, life for Alicia and her mother became much easier, and the smiles on Alicia's face visibly increased. Seeing Alicia smile, Alex felt his heart skip for the first time in his life. After that, Alicia's mother, who never left home before, would step outside, supporting her belly. Whenever she saw him with Alicia, she would gently invite him to come home and eat with them, until one night, noises came from their home again, and he rushed out without even putting on shoes. But this time, things were far more complicated than before. Crushed peaches were scattered across the floor, like the remnants of the one happy summer Alicia had finally managed to have. Alicia's mother and stepfather lay in a pool of blood nearby, while Alicia sat trembling in the corner, motionless, holding a peach in her hands. She looked like a dandelion in the wind, as if a breeze could scatter her into nothingness at any moment. For the first time in his unruly life, the young master felt fear. Trembling, he rushed to her and held Alicia tightly in his arms. Over and over, he soothed her with a gentleness he had never shown anyone before, until she finally broke down and cried. If at first, he had noticed her because of her exceptional beauty, later on, he truly fell in love with this ill-fated girl. As for Celine, when he first saw her, she was still in her early teens, tied with a rope and dragged like livestock toward a limping, sleazy middle-aged man. The girl's eyes were dim, her expression numb, and in that instant, he remembered Alicia trembling in the corner that night. They were both pure jasmines blooming out of the mud. In that moment, compassion stirred in him, but it was only compassion, because his heart belonged entirely to Alicia. Thinking of this, his gaze softened, and he whispered, "All right." Chapter 10. In the following days, Alex continued to interact with Celine just as before. It was the last few days. After all, he thought he should at least give this young girl who admired him a bit of final care. Yet somehow, Alicia's image kept surfacing in his mind, her crying in that dark, cramped little room, her silently delivering him medicine and tending to his wounds even while drowning in her own turmoil, her trembling beneath him, obedient and fragile, still terrified of men because of her stepfather, yet enduring him anyway. He missed her, especially when he saw Celine being pushed out of the operating room. His longing surged to its peak. At that moment, Celine's face was paper white, her whole body shrinking inside the loose hospital gown like a flower wilted beyond saving. But Alex couldn't help thinking, would Alicia be in this much pain when she gives birth? He thought, it's fine, he would stay by her side, hold her in his arms and comfort her, hire the best postpartum care team for her. He thought, this lifetime, they would only need this one child. He would never let Alicia suffer again. But their chat history was still stuck on the day he said he had to go on a business trip, and Alicia told him work was most important. These days, he really did have company matters to handle, and with Celine's abortion surgery on top of it, he was overwhelmed and had no time to contact her, and she didn't reach out to him either. Suddenly, Alex remembered, on their anniversary, Alicia's behavior had been extremely unusual, as if she had found out something. His heart tightened with panic. He hurriedly sent Alicia a message. So anxious he didn't even hear Celine calling him. Only when the chat page displayed typing, and after a long wait, a message popped up. The baby and I are both fine. Focus on your trip. Did his heart finally settle? He asked Celine. What were you saying just now? Celine sniffled pitifully, her eyes slightly red, pressing her cheek against Alex's palm. Alex, it's the last few days. Can you stay with me, please? Alex didn't speak. He simply put down his phone. On the day Celine was discharged, Alex immediately asked his assistant to book a flight back to Jing City. Before boarding, he called Alicia. Her voice was still gentle, saying she would pick him up at the airport. He curved his lips happily. Baby, stay home and be good. You're 6 months along. Don't run around everywhere. I brought you a gift. Right before hanging up, he was struck with a sudden impulse and called Alicia. A soft came from the other side. He said, I love you. The past few years had been too difficult. He had left his family's support, and from starting a business to rebuilding himself in Jing City, he had endured countless hardships. So many people called him an idiot, throwing away his position as heir all for a woman. They compared him with that illegitimate son. Who was he? He was once heaven's favored child, the crown prince, admired by everyone. Yet people threw his dignity and reputation to the ground for that bastard to trample. Those playboys he once looked down on could, just to flatter that illegitimate son, casually crush his barely recovering company into decline again. Because of all this, he had unreasonably blamed Alicia and even hated her. Hated that her existence made him lose his mind and abandon everything. And so, as time passed, he had rarely spoken those 3 words with such genuine warmth again. Yet now, speaking them suddenly, his heart pounded like a foolish young boy's, eagerly waiting for her reply. But time passed, long enough that his wildly beating heart slowly calmed, and the smile on his lips faded. Only then did she say softly, He hung up, the warmth faded, and the smile on his face stiffened a little, but it didn't matter. Celine was the only thing he had ever wronged Alicia with. Once he went back and wiped away all traces, nothing would remain. Alicia would never know anything. They would still be as loving as before. And soon, their baby would arrive. As the harmonious scene flashed in his mind, even his expression softened. After he got off the plane, a light drizzle began falling over Jing City. Even the air seemed to carry a sense of foreboding, like something important was about to be ripped out of his life. Alex forced himself to focus as he got in the car and pressed the accelerator repeatedly. Faster, faster. He would drop Celine off at school and then go home to find her. What was Alicia doing now? Was she quietly reading on the sofa? Or trimming the few potted plants she treated like treasures on the balcony? Or perhaps she was already holding her belly, pacing at the door, waiting for him. Bang! The accident struck unbelievably fast. Instinctively, he leaned sideways, shielding Celine with his body. No matter what, she had just gotten rid of a child for him. If the impact was severe, her life might be at risk. With the rain and his chaotic thoughts, the car rear-ended the vehicle in front. The front of his car rammed violently into the back of the other one. Alex knew it was his fault. But who was he? He had never admitted mistakes since childhood. After confirming that Celine was unharmed, he immediately called his assistant and told him to handle it the way he always did. Teach this unlucky bastard who dared bring him misfortune a lesson. After hanging up, Alex stepped out of the car with a cold expression. Celine, frightened, tugged at him and followed him out. The rain grew heavier. Alex took off his coat and covered Celine's head, shielding her as he held her in his arms and prepared to step forward to see who was in the other car. But after only a few steps, he froze, because he saw a sight that would be carved into his soul for the rest of his life. A woman pushed open the car door and fell to the ground. Her swollen pregnant belly trembled with pain from the wound on her forehead. Then she lifted her head. Her gaze toward him and Celine was as calm and still as a dead lake. And that face he had missed for so long appeared right in front of him. In that instant, it felt as if all the blood in his body had drained away. Terror made his lips tremble uncontrollably. Yet not a single sound came out. Chapter 11. When I woke up in the hospital, the wound on my forehead had already been bandaged. Actually, My injury wasn't serious, the scene just looked frightening. A nurse came in and said a few things, then was called out after she left. Alex stood outside the door. His voice was very low as he asked about my condition, but he didn't dare come in to see for himself. I lowered my eyes and gently stroked my belly, calling him Alex. His questioning stopped abruptly. After a long while, the door was pushed open. Alex's suit was wrinkled, still the one he'd used to cover Celine from the rain. He hadn't changed. He forced a fragile smile at me and spoke in a dry voice. Alicia, don't misunderstand. With her. Come see our baby. I interrupted his excuse gently. By then the weather had cleared. I tilted my face toward the sunlight and smiled at him. Alex's expression instantly softened from panic to tenderness as he watched me walk over in a daze. I looked at him carefully, and finally guilt appeared on his face. Guilt for cheating on his pregnant wife. I thought it was funny, and actually laughed out loud. Alex snapped back to himself and, trembling, reached out to touch my belly. His voice was nearly choked when he spoke again. I'm sorry. Alicia, yesterday, you scared me to death. Didn't I tell you to stay home and wait for me? I didn't. He couldn't finish. He pressed his head against my belly and whispered, if anything happened to you, what would I do? The atmosphere in the ward gradually grew warm and gentle. We stayed like that. The room so quiet that even the drip of the bathroom could be heard. I stroked Alex's hair in slow, measured motions, like calming a mad, agitated dog. Alex had always had a bad temper and gotten into trouble. I used to soothe him like this, running my hand down his back, smoothing his hair, but I had also seen him bury his face in another woman's chest. A traitor's dog is disgusting and cloying. It was as if even touching his hand at this moment would make it filthy. So, unexpectedly, I pushed him away, facing his bewildered gaze. I smiled and said each word slowly. Alex, say goodbye to the baby one last time. Tell it that in its next life it must never be reborn as the descendant of a rotten man like you. Chapter 12. Alex went insane. His clothes were disheveled as he was pinned to the ground by the men I had hired, screaming at the top of his lungs. Several times, he almost broke free and charged toward me. Fortunately, I had prepared in advance. When the contractions started, the men I had paid to stand guard outside held him down. As he watched the changes in my expression, his eyes shifted from shock to pain, and finally to utter despair. Alicia, you're joking, right? I was wrong. I was really wrong. I was only with Celine for those few short months. I never loved her. I love you. I've only ever loved you. I'm begging you, please. I'm begging you, this is our child. Alicia, we're the only ones left in this world who are close to each other. This is our child. You can't. Ah. Alex's eyes turned blood red, as if he were about to bleed from them, his emotions collapsing entirely as he let out inhuman screams. Yes. In the end I still chose to induce labor, to remove this child, and I did it right in front of Alex. I could clearly feel the medicine taking effect, the violent movements of the baby inside me, its final struggle. My stomach twisted in pain, and my heart spasmed. Trembling, I nearly crawled off the bed, inching step by step toward him. My calm shattered. I grabbed him by the collar. No, I can, Alex, because trash like you and your father don't deserve to have descendants. Alicia! Pinned and forced to kneel before me, Alex screamed in agony. In the 7 years I'd known him, and the 3 years we had been married, he had never once lost his temper at me. Now his eyes were ferocious, and the hatred he had buried deep finally surfaced. Knowing he hated me was one thing, seeing it was another. For a moment, everything felt torn and absurd. That was your child too. I made the mistake. What did it do wrong? Even the chance to be born is being taken away. How can you be so cruel? Did you forget your mother? She died protecting you. You're a mother now. Alicia! He spoke incoherently, trying to attack me with the deepest wound in my heart. But I didn't care, because I knew, if my mother saw this moment, she would be happy for me. She would be relieved that I didn't walk the same path she did. Even before she died, she kept telling me to run, and now, I had finally run completely free from that shadow. So I pulled my lips into a mocking smile. I looked at him with scorn. What right do you have to blame me? All of this is your fault, not mine. Look at you, you're just like your father, a beast who cheats while his wife is pregnant. So the genes of the wicked really do pass down. And you don't deserve to have descendants. And I am not your mother, who died tormented because her husband cheated. In this moment, everything I knew about him became a blade stabbing straight into him. The room was filled only with his ragged breathing and bloodshot eyes. My forehead throbbed with pain, veins bulging, yet I remained calm and composed. A nurse hurried in to check on me, terrified something might go wrong, rushing to support me. Did I win? No, I didn't. In this battle, we were both losers. Alex was pinned to the ground, forced to kneel. I turned my head away, unwilling to look at him anymore. He should kneel to send this child off. Chapter 13. My belly hurt more and more. It felt as if my entire lower body was being torn apart. An induced labor meant delivering this child. Already a stillborn, a nurse supported me as I paced in the bathroom, running her hand down my back and coaching me how to regulate my breathing. Alex knelt at the bathroom doorway, his eyes bulging as he stared fixedly at my belly, tears streaming uncontrollably down his face. It turned out he cared about this child that much. My abdomen felt as if countless dull blades were twisting inside, sweat soaking my body inch by inch. But looking at Alex like that, a strange thrill ran through me for a moment. My scalp tingled. Partway through, the doctor came in to check on me and gave me an injection for painless delivery. I was biting my mouth so hard that blood filled my mouth from the pain. Yet I still spoke, word by word. Alex, when you cheated, did you ever think about me being pregnant? Did you ever think about this child? Remember this, because you cheated. This child was killed before it even had a chance to breathe. Blood snaked down my legs onto the floor, forming a pool. Finally, with a soft sound, the child was expelled into a medical basin that had been prepared in advance. Alex's gaze followed the child tightly. His expression moved from despair to numbness, his throat making an inhuman ho-ho sound. At last, I bent slowly and lifted the tiny, already formed baby from the basin and placed it into Alex's arms. Alex, look at it. Look at the child who lost its life because of your mistake. So that later, when you dream, you won't forget what it looked like. Alex ran, fleeing in a panic. He even stumbled as he burst out of the ward, watching his retreating back. I tilted my head and took a deep breath. I know I have severe psychological issues. I had been actively treating them before, but then I became pregnant. And strangely, this little thing taking root and growing in my belly seemed to have a peculiar power. It slowly repaired the wounds in my mind. And for a long time afterward I didn't relapse. Naturally, I stopped needing medication and no longer had to see my psychiatrist. A week ago I went back to the psychiatric clinic, not to seek treatment, but to tell the doctor about this dark month. At the end I asked, "Doctor, tell me, what can I do to make him regret it?" My psychiatrist didn't answer, and I didn't wait for him to. As Alex said, he was the person who knew me best in the world, and I knew him just as well. After so much therapy, I had learned how to reverse direction and strike at a person's weakest point. I think Alex will never have children again in his life. This is a brutal psychological castration. It is the big gift I promised to give him. Chapter 14. I stayed in the hospital for a week. During that time Celine called me once. On the other end, she no longer sounded smug like before. She hysterically demanded, "What did you do? Why won't Alex's fever break after he came back? He can't even eat." Alicia, you vicious woman. You should go to the 18 levels of hell. I only smiled faintly and asked her one question. I heard Alex forced you to abort your child? There was a sharp bang as she slammed down the phone. On the 8th day in the hospital, an unexpected visitor came to my ward. The woman was dressed all in black. After she entered and glanced at me, she finally removed her mask and took off the hooded coat. Seeing her face, nearly translucent from years away from sunlight, I choked and then burst into loud sobs. That afternoon I was discharged. On the way to the airport Alex called me. I didn't pick up. He called once more and then stopped. While waiting at the gate, Abigail pulled her hood and mask back on, tapped at her laptop for a while, and then raised an eyebrow with a smile. "It's done." I sat there in a daze and didn't ask what was done. Abigail was the friend of mine who had never shown her face. Her situation was almost the same as mine. The only difference was she actively avoided light and crowds, while I was afraid of crowds. She used to be a hacker. She was once arrested for provocatively breaking into the systems of a long-established foreign family company. That family later bailed her out and hired her as a network security engineer. So when she says it's done, it's not likely to be anything good. The divorce papers have already been sent. Soon you'll be able to come abroad and live with me. She ruffled my hair. Only then did I turn to look at her. It won't be that easy. Alex is persistent and vindictive. This time took him by surprise. He didn't have time to react. But he never lets grudges go. Whether love or hatred is involved, he will never let it go easily. So before coming to the airport, I first went to see someone. The current person in control of Alex's family business, the illegitimate younger brother, the private son. I know Alex well. His pride is enormous, even though he has made a name for himself now. The fact that his father once recognized that illegitimate heir is a source of lifelong resentment for him. He would never accept being trampled by that person. That would hurt him worse than death. In the early days of our venture, Alex loved me and gave me 20% of the shares. Now I sold those shares to that illegitimate younger brother. These two have been at odds for years, each trying to crush the other. This opportunity, the private son would surely not miss. Only if they fight could I buy myself some time to recuperate and get the money I need to live abroad. Chapter 15. After going abroad, I spent a long time recovering. The 6-month induced labor had caused great damage to my body. During that period, I finally understood what Abigail meant by "it's done." She had hacked into Alex's computer, taken the bed photos and videos of Alex and Celine, compressed them, and scheduled them to be sent out widely to every one of Alex's business partners and company employees. She also privately forwarded Celine's provocative messages to Alex. Alex's company had already been unstable because I sold my shares to the illegitimate son. These things only made Alex's situation worse. Even then, he still didn't give up contacting me. No matter how tightly Abigail guarded things, a few messages would still appear on my phone every now and then. "Alicia, where are you? I won't divorce you. I was wrong. Can we go back to how we were? Alicia, I love you. I won't let go. I will find you. Alicia, I know where you are. Once I settle things here, I'll come bring you home. Alicia, I know everything Celine did. I've already taken care of her. No one will stand in our way." In the photo, Celine's face was covered in tears and her hands were tied. The people around her were ones I'd seen in the files Abigail had shown me. Celine's grandmother, her father and stepmother, and the widower who had almost become her husband years ago. My hands trembled as I finished reading the message. Abigail took the phone from my hands and wiped the sweat from my forehead with a towel. Ever since the induced labor, I often broke out in cold sweats and felt freezing all over. At that moment, even my heart felt cold. She helped me up. "I made soup. Come on, let's eat." I nodded weakly. She sneered. "Looks like things still aren't messy enough. You still have the energy to flirt." Then she went back to her room, took out her laptop, and sat at the dining table. "Eat first. I'm going to add a bit more code for him." Before she could start, I grabbed her hand and shook my head. "Don't. He's already a dying force. That illegitimate son won't give him any chance to rise again. It wasn't worth her risking it another time." Chapter 16. Very soon, things took another turn. Celine escaped and posted online, claiming she had been deceived emotionally and physically, and that she had no idea Alex was married. At the same time, Alex released the chat records Abigail had sent him, exposing Celine's lies. The two of them began biting each other like rabid dogs. Those who betray will eventually be betrayed. After my body recovered a bit, I asked Abigail to make a travel route for me so I could go out and walk around. In my 20-some years of living, I had never gone anywhere alone like that. From now on, I would always be on my own, knowing what I had in mind. Abigail planned a route with a huge span, so huge that I traveled around the world. So huge that Abigail reminded me Alex had chased after me, but because my itinerary kept changing, he never managed to run into me even once. During this period, because Alex was distracted, his company was completely swallowed up by the illegitimate son. Abigail sent me a photo of him drunk and passed out on the street, disheveled, broken. That was enough. On the day I returned to Jing City, it was snowing. When I stepped off the plane, The cold wind rushed into my face, and for a moment it felt like another lifetime. When I left, I carried wounds all over my body. Now, after just a few months, setting foot here again, I felt like an entirely different person. No longer sensitive, no longer shrinking back, no longer pushing people away out of fear. When I saw Alex again, it was because I asked him out to discuss the divorce. He had lost a lot of weight, and his hair no longer had the immaculate styling he once maintained. From the moment he saw me, his gaze never left my face. In these months, we had both experienced too much, so we were calm. What happened in the hospital already felt like something from a previous life. After sitting down, I pushed the newly drafted divorce agreement toward him. My shares had already been exchanged for cash. Alex's company was gone, so there was nothing left to fight over in terms of assets. I came back only to get divorced. Alex didn't look at the agreement. Instead, with red eyes, he grabbed his hair painfully and spoke in a trembling voice. I just made a mistake all men make. How? How did we become? I slept with someone else. As soon as my words fell, Alex abruptly froze, like a wind-up doll whose gears had broken. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. His eyes, however, were filled with despair. The redness overflowed with tears that fell one by one onto the table. He rarely cried. The only 2 times I'd seen it were at the hospital last time, and now. Last time, it was uncontrolled tears from shock and trauma. But this time, he cried while wiping his face, hand pressed over his chest. And after a long moment, he staggered to his feet and reached out to grab my hand. It's okay, Alicia. I'm okay. Let's make up, all right? Let's not divorce. I'll change. There won't be anyone else anymore. I'll make a comeback soon and give you a good life. I simply avoided his hand and gently punctured his fantasy. No, Alex, you won't have a comeback. Your spirit is already gone, and we won't reconcile. That ended the moment you cheated. Alex slumped back into his seat. Of course, I hadn't slept with anyone. I just knew his pride had already been broken almost completely, and making him suffer, that was something I had become very good at. And indeed, he could no longer be the arrogant man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. Instead, he kept insisting on how good he had once been to me, insisting he had only made one mistake. Do you know, Alex, it's not just men who are tempted by something fresh out there, women are too. Do you think I don't get sick of the same meals every day? You think I don't dislike the living room always looking exactly the same? It's just that I'm more moral than you. When I get tired of the food, I add some spice. When I get tired of the decor, I randomly rearrange things. I never wanted to live in another man's home. But you? Was it really just because Celine reminded you of the girl I used to be? Chapter 17. Alex eventually signed the divorce agreement. Before leaving, I said one last sentence. By the way, Alex, you once told that group of Playboy friends that I was already 6 months pregnant, that my belly was this big, and even if I found out you cheated, what could I possibly do? Now you know what I would do, don't you? After saying that, I walked straight out of the shop. I didn't look back to see what expression Alex had. I also didn't tell him that the Alicia he thought was dull and timid was actually stubborn to the bone, just as vengeful as he was. That night among the peaches scattered all over the floor, it wasn't my mother who injured my stepfather. It was me, panicked. I pushed him, causing his head to hit the corner of the table. Unfortunately, he died, and my mother still couldn't be saved. And the real reason that man laid hands on my mother that night was because earlier, when she invited Alex over for dinner, the rebellious boy threatened that beast verbally. I knew Alex wanted to protect us, but he happened to run into that beast when he was drunk. That scum had already been holding resentment because Alex had suppressed him before. That night, after drinking and then being threatened, he became even more violent. Afterward, I tried to hate Alex, but I knew he meant well, and he truly had helped us. During those dark days, he walked through the mud with me, but anyone can mention my unfortunate family background, except him, because I once trusted him, loved him. Ultimately, he also helped stack the bricks of my misfortune. So when he turned my pain into a joke and told everything to Celine and those rich brats, our mutual destruction was already destined. Chapter 18. In the days right after the divorce, Alex could barely remember what life was like. He spent every day drunk, muddled, and numb. He only remembered that one day. After stumbling out of a bar drunk, he nearly bumped into someone, but before he could get close, the person's bodyguards threw him aside, probably another rich heir from the upper class. He let out a mocking snort. Back when he was still the crown prince, he used to go out with this kind of entourage, even larger. If someone almost ran into him like this, whether drunk or sober, they would have been beaten without question. So he just lay there on the ground, waiting for someone to hit him. He even picked up the bottle again and took another heavy gulp while waiting. But he waited a long time, and no pain came. He rubbed his brow, about to say, "Are you gonna hit me or not? If not, I'm leaving." When the man surrounded at the center of the crowd walked over and stood before him. The man was young, with facial features very similar to his own. He recognized him almost instantly. In that moment, he couldn't describe what he felt. Disgrace, humiliation, no, more accurately, for that instant, he felt it might be better to just die. He tightened his grip around the bottle, trembling so hard his hand shook. The illegitimate son only glanced down at him from above and said, "So this is all you are," then walked away with a large entourage. Not far away, the bar manager waited at the entrance, a fawning smile plastered on his face. Alex took another swig of alcohol, chewing on the words, "So this is all you are." Yes, to that illegitimate son, someone like him now truly meant nothing. The other man was bright, polished, and surrounded by admirers, and he himself was nothing but a puddle of rotten mud. As he kept thinking about it, his eyes began to burn again. He pulled out his phone and instinctively dialed the number etched deep into his bones. He thought she should be there for him. She had always been there for him before. The call connected quickly, but what came through was a man's voice. For a moment, Alex felt as if his heart had stopped. There was a man beside Alicia. Did that mean she would soon start a new relationship? The man said hello several times, and when he heard no response, he hung up. Alex no longer had the courage to call again. Alicia was right. His spirit had already shattered that day in the hospital. There was no going back. Never. Not to the status he once had, nor to the woman he had loved as if with his life. He threw away the bottle and slowly got to his feet, staggering toward the shadows not far away.